When we were creating this bridge element in the last video, I did a couple of Boolean operations, and I just wanted to back up for a minute and take a look at how that works a little bit more carefully, and we can make a screw head with that. So let's see here. So here I have a cube and a sphere, okay? And they're intersecting. Now, if I go to, you'd think that the Boolean operations would be modifiers, but they're actually a special kind of object. So if I go to standard primitives here and go down to compound objects, they're found in there. And it's pro-Boolean and Boolean. And let's just stick with pro-Boolean for now. Boolean is an older version, and probably we won't need to use that. There's lots of options in here that we can just kind of ignore for the time being, or until we need them. And the only kind of operation you're probably going to want is subtraction, which is probably the default. If not, put it on subtraction. And then with the object you're going to cut selected, just go start picking and pick the other object. Okay, and I'm going to turn off start picking. All right, so I made a Boolean. Let's go to modify and see what we can do with that. So I can change, this is, unless I right click on this and convert to editable poly, this stays like a live Boolean, meaning its original parts are still editable. And you can also move the original parts. So if you look down, you'll see now this is pro-Boolean. It's the object type. I'm in modify, right? And if I look down at the bottom here, you'll see here's my original parts, sphere and box, right? If I click on sphere, back up at the top here it appears. And if I click on that in the stack, I have my original sphere. So I can adjust the radius and number of segments and stuff like that, okay? I'm going to go back up to pro-Boolean here. Now, if I want to move the sphere around, in that case, I have to click on this little arrow thing next to pro-Boolean, and then you'll see operands. And then I get the sphere down. Oh, sorry. Then I have to get the sphere here, I believe. Nope. Operands, and click on the sphere down here. And now I can move the sphere around. Okay, so so that's just the basics of using pro-Boolean again. Let's make a screw. Okay. Now here's you can see what the screw heads look like. They're kind of like, this one actually has a couple different kind of screws on it. But that kind of varies, I mean, but like the one I think I'm going to make is has a little bit of a bulbous edge there. And then it's got this, I guess that's a Phillips head. So it's kind of a cross type hole in it that's also kind of rounded in the middle. So if you look at it carefully. All right. Oops, where am I here? Okay. So in my front viewport, because that's the orientation of the screws, I'm going to go back to standard primitives, and I'm going to create a sphere. Okay, I can scale it down afterwards. All right, so here's the sphere. Okay, I'm going to click F4 so I can see the edges while I'm doing this. And I think, I don't know how, that's probably enough segments, but I think I'm going to double up on that. So instead of 32 segments, I'll make it 64. Just so to make sure I don't see any flat edges going around there. And I'm going to go to hemisphere and turn that up a little bit. Okay. All the way like this is going to be like a screw head, right? But this is one that just kind of has a sharp edge to it. And I think I want it to have a little bit more of that rounded edge kind of. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so it starts to curve under on the sides. We'll see how this looks, like that. And then I'm going to squish it. So I'm going into scale. And make sure you're on the head of the scale gizmo, so you're only scaling on one axis. And yeah, I think that'll be good. Okay, it's not exactly right, but I think it's having that little edge going under there is going to pick up nice reflections on here, nicer than if we just have like a sharp edge. I think that's okay. All right. So let's now make the hole that we're going to cut in it. So we'll create sort of like that cross shape, extrude it, and then we'll do a Boolean to punch it out of the screw head. Now, so I'm going to do this again in the front viewport, right? I could just do some kind of thing like, go into line and, draw something like this, and, well, more carefully than that, obviously. And that's going to work. All right. But I'm going to try to do it a little bit smarter. So I'm going to start with a rectangle. Okay. I guess about that size. All right. Now I'm going to make another rectangle and rotate it. So and then I know that the two halves will be the same size, right? So I'm going to go edit clone. Now it's weird, like clone is in this situation is not lit up, but it's, I guess, maybe it's because I haven't gone to modify. Yeah, usually I just click on the select and move, and that also turns it on. Anyway, edit clone and copy, not instance. Okay, instance is like two of the same thing, and if you scale one, the other one will scale. And it's just if you're trying to make two separate things, just use copy. All right, so they're right on top of each other. I'm going to go to rotate. Make sure your angle snap is turned on, as it should always be. Okay. Rotating 90 degrees. All right. Now, I would like to do our little, we're going to do a 2D Boolean operation and a 3D Boolean operation. Okay. 2D is part of the spline subset, and the 3D is the pro Boolean we just looked at. So I need to attach these two together, right? And if I was creating two new rectangles, if you recall from a week or two ago when we did this, I could just turn off Start New Shape. But I didn't do that. That didn't happen because I just did Edit Clone, right? So what we need to do is right-click. I'm going to get out of Rotate. I'm going to right-click on one of these and convert to editable spline. Okay, so now it's not a rectangle, it's a spline. And if I go, you'll see then down in geometry, you'll see attach. And I just put my cursor over the other one, and it's attached. All right. And so now we're going to do the Boolean operation to put them together. So it's a cross shape. However, it's a little more complicated than that. So let's also draw a circle in the middle, and that'll give us a nicer shape. So I'm going to go to circle. I'm going to put it right there so I don't have to bother aligning it. And kind of like that. So it's going to cut off those inside edges a little bit. Okay. Go to select and move back to my original thing. And again, I'm going to attach and click on the circle. Turn off attach. All right. Now, I think we have to be in spline mode for this for some reason. But if we go down to, I'll start with one of them selected. And if we go to Boolean, it's union, subtraction, and intersection. So union is on already for me. So I'm turning on Boolean. Click on the other rectangle, click on the circle, turn off Boolean, and there's our shape. So as always, we want to edit the sub-object type. See, we're in spline and everything's red. So just go up here and click on editable spline. Oops, I just rotated on my front viewport, so I'll hit F for front to get back to it. Okay, I might have made these a little bit fat, but I'm just instead and not quite long enough in comparison, but I'm just going to go with it. So let's extrude this thing. So E for extrude. Okay, look at it in 3D to see how long it is. Yeah, that's too long. So okay, I'm going to move this guy up here so it sticks out of the top, and then adjust the height. I don't want the thing to punch through the back of the screw, right? But I want it to be pretty deep in there, like that. All right. Now, we could just move that over and do the Boolean thing, but I think the fact that it's, a Phillips head is going to kind of go to a point a little bit more, and I think it's too, that flat bottom is going to be kind of too obvious. So I'm going to just scale down the back of this thing, right? It's still so it's an extrude, right? So to scale it down, I'm going to have to make it into an editable poly, which is another thing that I'll talk about more soon. But for the moment, I'm just going to right click, convert to editable poly. Editable mesh is very similar. It's just an older tool set that's kind of grandfathered in. Editable poly has more stuff that you want. All right. So let's just go to polygon mode. That's the fourth one. Click on this back polygon, right? And let's just scale it down. Should be easy. So go to select and scale up in your toolbar, okay? And I think if you just do a uniform scale in the middle here, that should work fine. Maybe something like that. And then go back to select and move. And to get out of the sub-object mode, you want to make sure you exit it. Just click up on the word editable poly. All right, let's put this thing over there. So we can just move it by eye, but we can also, up in the toolbar, you'll see there's next to mirror, there's a line, okay? So I'm just going to then click on the other object, and I'm just going to hit center and center. Okay. And how's it fitting in there? So it's sticking through the back, right? So I'm just going to move it forward a hair so it doesn't penetrate. All right, let's do it. So click on the thing you want to cut, go to create, compound objects, and pro Boolean, start picking, turn off start picking, and there's our object. All right, so we can use that. If you look on here, there's screws all over the place. They're all along the plate, right? Those are all screws, okay? And if you look at a photo of the, look at a photo of the guitar, you'll see where they are. And they're also, let's see, most of the bridges have a line of screws on here. Ours only has 2, but I think that there might be a separate line underneath here that's not visible. I don't know, but we'll have to look at that. Probably you want at least 2 there. And then these things down on the bottom here, which when I did it, I put like hex nuts down there. But I think those are actually screw heads like the ones we just made, the ones on the bottom. So if you use hex nuts there, it's probably fine because these aren't all the same. They're, every guitar doesn't have the same kind of screws on it, even every Stratocaster. But and then so this regular Phillips head screw, you can use it a number of times. When we try to figure out this thing, it's there also. So I can just so the question now is, do I want to leave this as a pro Boolean or convert it to editable poly to make it a simpler object? It doesn't really matter. I don't think I'm going to want to change it any, so I'm just going to right click, convert to editable poly. So now I don't have all that Boolean stuff floating around. All right, so I'm just going to select the picture plane and the screw, right click and hide unselected, and let me, whoops, position and roughly scale this guy. Okay, I'm just going to put it on one of these. Okay, I could have built this the right size to start with. I'm doing a uniform scale, so that means in the middle. Right. And bring it down. Something like that. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, and now let's see where it is. So in space in this direction. So hide unselected, oops, unhide all. And I'm just going to make sure I always move with my cursor on the head of the gizmo in whatever direction I'm going in. And you can see when it starts to go submerge in the other object, and just try to just eyeball that there so it sits right on it. You don't want any space there. If they intersect a little bit, it's fine. So there's a sweet looking screw, and copy that all over the place. And once we put some shiny chrome on there, it's going to make this whole thing look fantastic.